hope this camera's working. Excuse me. Have some problems with it. Got a mess right here. Had a bunch of friends come over. The guys I took fishing and they wanted to play with the antler collection. Okay. I am here for another 5 hours. Got home last night. And I retrieved the SD card from the boat. My friend just didn't see it when I asked him to grab it on his way home. And what's confusing is that this handful of days is with the wildlife biologists. I drop them off the island, I'd get up the boat offshore and I'd sit there. Oh, maybe I'll get some more voices heard. And as a result, that SD card on the GoPro loaded up to I don't know how many clips. What was that, over a week ago? And then I managed to make one video on my phone on the boat, got enough Wi-Fi, and I delivered one to here. Came home, made some more videos. I forgot to bring that SD card home. And now that I finally have it here with me, it seems like months ago. A week is months ago to me. And I may have loaded some of them again. I don't know. Maybe read some duplicates. I don't know. But the people that emailed me to complain to me about a repeat, maybe you could look into getting your ticket refunded. It's out of my hands, right? It's right now is the busiest time of the year period. Is chaos, which I have on the go, and I probably shouldn't even be doing this with the time that I have, but I'm doing it. If I fuck up, oh well. Be patient. You're still getting your tickets worth, right? For what you spent to be here. Now. Quick word. Oh, another thing too is what I did is one of those videos is I put the camera on record on the dash of the boat, and then I cracked open the conversation piece, the topic of Sasquatch, the bush people, the Sabe people, with the biologist, without them knowing. And then I was just trying to edit that up real quick, such a 12-minute video, and then I could at least deliver it to all of you to give you an example of how I actually bring up the topic, and what the results are, what the reactions are, and the input fed back. And I don't know why I had to do the blur the face out feature on the editing program. I had to go to YouTube and learn how to do it. With the program I have, put it on there. For some reason, as soon as the edit program gets to that frame where the blur comes in, it stops exporting the video so I can share it with you. I don't know why. I just about pulled all my hair out a minute ago and I'm frustrated. Hopefully I can deliver that video before I leave. If not, I guess I'll have to do it when I get back. So, what else can I share with you guys? Just yesterday I was at a store owned by a local First Nations band, and a young guy came in with a Bigfoot hoodie on, Bigfoot all over it. And he's in the store and I just brought him, hey, you ever seen one of those things? Yeah. He goes, Steve, right? And I'm like, yeah, man. Introduced himself, friendly guy. And this is what he relayed to me. And coincidentally, the only other two people in that whole store was him, a customer, and the girl working behind the till. Another First Nations lady from nearby us right here. And just to give you guys an example of when you bring up that topic in the public, as a matter of fact, speaking to people out of respect, this is the feedback that I got. So first I started talking to him, and he'd seen these beings 4 different times, and 1, 2, 3 times was within a quarter of a mile where I made all my steelhead videos this winter. Right where Sarah heard voices but not speaking English as well, when I had her steelhead fishing with me in the same place. And he just told me of one place on the river, on the rapids, driving home, and there was one just standing there looking at him. Said it was reddish, black and gray mixed in his hair, just standing there looking at him. Another time hunting within a quarter mile there, he saw another one standing there looking at him. And another time, him and a friend were hunting not too far from there, and a rock flew out and landed on the road by him. And then his friend came over, and then another rock landed exactly right between them from the bushes. And I think he had 4 or 5 experiences to share with me, openly, matter of fact, and we all kind of laughed with each other about how people will not talk about it, don't want to acknowledge it. Then, the young lady behind the counter, super nice, kind girl, her and Sarah always talk, and I asked her, you seen one too? She goes, oh yeah, everybody has. And she was at I don't know if you remember one of my videos back in the wintertime, there's a lake I stopped at first light, and the water was dead flat. And that lake is about a quarter mile above those huge waterfalls that I put in videos where I fish at the bottom there, and it felt vulnerable down there a few times too. But anyway, her and her boyfriend were picking moss on the other side of that lake in that steep timbers hill there. And she said all of a sudden she just felt, she felt her body going zoom. She described it as from the feet up. Oh my God, it's time to go, it's time to go. And her boyfriend didn't understand. She's like, I'm out of here. Coming or not, I'm leaving now. And she said she basically ran to the boat and got in the boat, and he was up to his waist in the water trying to catch up to her, get in the boat. And gosh, I heard so many stories, I can't remember exactly where she was. She saw one, like she's seen them twice or more times. And everything too, I enjoy the delivery because it's a matter of fact, like it should be. And it's interesting to me. But I guess I thought I'd mention that, just to let you guys know how common it is. How common this is. It's absolutely ridiculous how common it is. I absolutely enjoy talking to friendly people who are not scared, and they speak of the truth of this the truths of this planet that they know as a matter of fact delivery. Love it. So that just happened yesterday. It's fresh on the brain, and while I'm here, I'm going to go to the top of the list again because I don't know why or how I'm getting duplicate emails. I do know how. It's from all of you sending me in the same email. I don't know how many times you do it, and obviously this is the result, is me reading them more than once, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. It's a little unfair to the people who need to be heard, and they're patiently waiting to be heard. So think about that, you guys. When you send an email to me, just don't do it. Don't do it 2 or 3 times or 4 times to all the different email addresses you can find, because it's really screwing me up, all right? And it's putting people's voices way back in the lineup. It's not fair. Anyway, yeah, I'm a little impatient right now because I got no time and I'm very underslept. I'm working my ass off out there. And I'll get through it though. I'll get through this time as I'm reading live from the communist country of Canada. Now, let's get on with it. Here's some people, more important voices than mine. This is the title, I Have to Share This Truth. I want to assure you, as you read this, there will be nothing stated that could risk your channel being banned. I have 2 encounters after this first part that I must share with you as a brother in this fight for our truth and our freedom. All right, man, let's get into it. The world is controlled by a private banking cabal, and the history we have all been taught about World War II is critical to our enslavement. Think along the lines of boiling the lobster slowly so it doesn't jump out of the pot. When it comes to these elites executing their plans in such a way that they will not foster an open rebellion from the people, my hope they are slipping. Mine too. The critical element of the New World Order being possible to these people is the fall of the West and its homogenized nations that can effectively put up any eventual resistance movement. Think about it. Traitor European nobility and that highly mobilized religious/racial group, I will not name here, are the stakeholders of this plan. The one world government and the creation of a dumbed-down slave race that can be controlled easily. You mean a population that can be manipulated to argue what if a woman is a woman or a man? As an example, an easy one. Now really think about it. Where is all the immigration coming from and where are they being shuttled to? You see it, I see it, we all see it. The media celebrating it daily. The fall of the West and its people. Really think about it. These are the people they feel it's time to break up and dwindle into an extreme minority on the earth, just like the North American Indian in a way. In their mind, our time is up. We are too capable, and now that the world is in their hands, to prevent any resistance to the domination, a much dumber and more controllable and less capable people are needed. In regards to keeping your channel safe, I will not directly name who I'm speaking of because this information will destroy your channel fast. But I know your heart and your spirit is of the pure flame/essence. I know the lion doesn't care. Where deceit and lies of the laughing hyenas are found, the lion busts in, breaks the cowards into pieces. This fight will be an intergenerational one, and to the likes of those overseas. Find Europa, the last battle. Find it, watch it. The first part of the doc is crucial to understanding the culprit of this Western degeneration. Like I said, it's been a long, slow game. Excuse me, and we've all been victims to its mass mind influence and propaganda for generations. It runs deep and overwhelming when you think about it. I've seen the... Okay, now he's gonna move on to his encounters, I guess. Thanks for the email, thanks for the input, it's appreciated. For the rest of the audience here, take from it what you will or leave it, right? We are about truth, and people have various slices of truth to deliver here to all of you. I've seen the Sabe twice. Once it was a young one and a grown balding male. They're like wisps in the wind and just blow through the woods totally unnoticed. They look like giant primitive men from Papua New Guinea with wispy orangutan red hair. I saw the first one sprint across my path on all fours in a fast lighting blur. I couldn't make out what it was until I found myself in the club of no return years later. I had no head at the side profile. It had no head at the side profile. I could see absolutely no head on this thing. The same day I was witnessing rocks rolling in front of my path once or twice. No noises heard. Had a very creepy feeling of being watched that evening, setting up camp. I built a blind, then fell asleep. I built and blind, then fell asleep. One time I was walking through the woods behind my parents' house and heard something pacing me. I feel the uneasiness of being watched. I scream into the woods with a guttural fighting tone and resume my trek. A pine cone pegs me in the back of my head. I spin around on a dime, and hiking stick like I was just zapped by someone and was angry. Nothing. Still just feeling watched. Not long after that, I upped the trek into a jog. LOL. Still, this time I never knew about hairy man. I saw a tree sign and a massive structure that day and thought children did the sign, but I could not, for the life of me, explain a log pile up like you see on a river, just chilling against a big rock face. One time at my buddy's cabin, I was about to fall asleep in the back room, and I felt like I was all of a sudden being sized up, like I was in a freaking jail or something. I didn't understand why I felt this way, so I grabbed my AR and held it over my stomach before I eventually put it off me and fell asleep. Wow. Now knowing what I know, I'm positive one was glaring at me through that window that night. That feeling alone made that memory indelible until years later when I could explain it. The second time I actually saw one, I was an active believer by listening to the people's testimonies on this topic for many months prior. I was still piecing together what they were in my mind, still not having a good clear visual. In this encounter, I was definitely placed on pause by infrasound. I was wide awake and looking out my tent door at a red blur by a large tree. I was laying down on my cot seeing this. I thought to myself, it's just a branch with dead pine needles. This was in early hours of the morning. I was about to shut my eyes again, and the effing pine branch dipped behind the tree. I'm in the middle of keeping myself awake and holding my eyes half open when this amazing creature walks out from behind the tree like a guy just minding his own business with long red rocker hair and balding. His dark gray skin, the orangutan red fine blurryish hair, it had the basketball player body type. It looked just like a ripped black tribal guy from the Spice Islands, body-wise, just taller and bigger. I tried hooting at him, but it was like my voice box was paralyzed. I was excited and freaking out in my head, trying to perk all the way back up, slowly drifting back into sleep, as well as dealing with infrasound, no doubt, LOL. Because as soon as he passed my tent door view, I was all the way there, so to speak. I just laid there questioning what I just experienced. Something told me to just stay there. About 20 minutes later, I called out to a friend there with me in another tent if he heard someone walk around earlier and if he heard me making any sounds, and he said he didn't. Me and the same friend heard this Sabe whistle to us one time when we were arguing at camp. Totally make your pulse pause and blood chill, LOL. We heard branches snapping and falling in perfect weather at night regularly and wood knocks. Those things watched us all the time out there. I could swear I saw a low set of eyes and a high set of eyes, barely self-illuminated and greenish, watching me get ready for bed one night. I jokingly waved at them. LOL. I think the scariest thing that's happened to me though was this one time on the same property. I couldn't find my cell phone for the life of me. All I had was a lighter for light and I couldn't find it anywhere. I was very pissed off and proceeded to scream extremely pissed offedly and angrily at the world around me. After a few of those outbursts, I heard a whack, 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 whack. I go silent and grab a stick, saying nothing, and do it back. I absolutely yell no more, get in my sleeping bag, and I fall asleep. LOL. The next morning, I found my phone under my sleeping bag. I was pretty certain I'd already checked there. I think they were messing with me. Maybe. I may have just misplaced it. Anyway, that's it, Steve. We are brothers and I don't even know you, but we have people to protect and many nations to save. All nations, all races, all people deserve to be released from their captivity to lead sovereign existences of their own, much like what you have read before. To these people, it's all about control of labor. Thanks, Steve. God is with us. All right, man. Appreciate your time. Make sure you email us back, as usual, right? You get any knowledge that we need, all right? Any kind of a heads up for anything that you think will help the people. That's what we need here, all right? And welcome to the Club of No Return. Then a quick note, while I was reading that, it reminded me of, my inbox was gang blasted with people emailing me in, I think it was originally a Facebook post or something, of a guy who claimed to be in remote British Columbia and found a skull in a mud pile. And a lot of people felt I needed to see this. So, I will let you all know that I looked at it, and I looked into him, and it took me about probably 3.5 seconds to realize that it's, for me, my gut instincts told me absolute gimmick. Joke being played by the perpetrator. As I instantly looked into him, and the first thing that comes up is sales for products with this person's name, the title of the name on the post, and that skull is 100% baboon. And also that person is a big game hunter that goes to Africa and does all that shit. So, and you imagine somebody claiming to smuggle a skull across the border. Whatever, is what it is, take from what you will. My thoughts on that, which it's just my thoughts, shouldn't have any effect on you. I think I gave that item, that post, those photographs, who it was, what they are about online. I gave them about 4.5 seconds of my time, plus this 1.5 minutes I just gave it time here, and that's where it ends with me. Moving on. So nobody has to email me about that anymore, okay? Please. All right, now let's read another one. From a more important voice than mine, I'll tell you what. Here we go. Before I knew that there was a Club of No Return. Halito, Steve, that's hello in brackets. I hope this isn't too long, bro. That's his words, not me. My name is Charles, and you can use my name if you wish. I have nothing to hide or be ashamed of, and I'm too damned old to be worried about what some non-believers might have on their petty minds. Before I get started with my encounter, just a little about myself. I'm of Native American and German heritage, precisely Cherokee and Choctaw, with a small amount of Irish, Scottish, and Bohemian thrown into the mix. I've always had a love for the outdoors, whether it be camping, hunting, fishing, or hiking. That is until this damn creature took it all away from me. I excelled in the Boy Scouts of America, football, basketball, and track. I worked as a service operator in the Texas oil field for 25 years and then went to work for the United States Postal Service. I retired in 2017 after 23 years of service. Well, here it goes. The day I found out that there was a Club of No Return. My encounter happened in '74 and I was 21 years old. Steve, in 47 years, I never told anyone about this encounter. I'm still dealing with some PTSD. Okay, man, I'm not glad to hear that, but I'm glad in a way to read that sentence and then know that you are coming forward here, because that's what we're about. This is a safe frickin' place, all right, man? You came to the right place. We got your back. I needed some downtime on the way from my oil field job. So I planned a vacation to Beavers Bend State Park in southeast Oklahoma during the first week of March in '74. My pregnant wife of 6 months and I planned a tent camp on the Mountain Fork River below the dam on Broken Bow Lake for 4 days. So I rented the farthest south tent site, which was only 30 yards from a cement dam on the river. This made the upper portion deeper for swimming, better kayaking and fishing. We had just beautiful weather, with lows in the low to mid-50s and highs of 65 to 70 degrees. Well, the first 2 days were just terrific. We had fresh fish for breakfast and dinner both days. Now in the morning of the third day, I got up at 5 a.m., made a pot of coffee, had 1 cup, and then grabbed my tackle box, rod and reel, and a 5-gallon bucket to put my catch in. I then walked down to the cement dam, where I'd fished the first 2 days with not a problem. 1. Dogs barking. It's not good. This morning I had about an 8-mile-per-hour breeze blowing in my face from the southeast. The sun was just starting to rise when I made my first cast using an inline single spinner 1-ounce lure I called a Schuster lure, white with black dots and a white horsehair skirt over a barbless treble hook. After fishing for about 25 minutes, I had a 3-pound smallmouth bass and 2 rainbow trout of about 2 pounds each. I planned on catching 1 more fish and then call it quits. I went to make another cast and my lure hung up on what I thought was a tree limb. So I turned looking up to see where my lure had caught the limb, and then, damn, all I could see was a wall of cinnamon brown hair about 4 feet from me. Oh my God. My lure had hung up on the upper left chest of something that I didn't know existed. No way. It was at least 10 to 11 feet tall, 5 foot wide across the shoulders, and at least 1,000 to 1,100 pounds. Its biceps were as big as my waist, and I had a 32-inch waist. My eyes moved up to his face. It had a conical head. The eyes were as big as a Coke can and red. It was looking down at me and snarling. His teeth were as big as a horse's and had only slightly pronounced eye teeth. His head looked 2.5 times the size of mine. I could not move. I could feel and hear a very low growl that seemed to rattle my bones with a pressure all over my body that I can't explain. At this moment, I truly believed that my life was over, Steve. I couldn't speak or scream, but I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm so sorry for hurting you. Then, like turning off a light switch, everything went black. I evidently passed out. I believe that was about 6:30 a.m. When I woke up, my watch read 7 a.m. I felt so drained of energy and I had a terrible headache. I sat up, looking around, and saw that my tackle box had been smashed flat. My rod was broken into 4 pieces, and the 3 fish that I had caught were taken out of my bucket. After regaining my composure, I found 2 footprints where the effing huge beast had been standing. I had a measuring tape, so I measured both prints at 22.5 inches long, 10 inches across the ball of the foot, and 6 inches across the heel. Damn, I'd never seen a footprint that huge. Then I had to get the hell away from there. I picked up all my crushed and broken fishing equipment and carried all of it to a trash bin. I walked back to camp, poured myself another cup of coffee, and waited for my wife to get up out of bed. I poured her a cup of coffee and she asked, "How was the fishing this morning?" Well, I told her that during the night someone had came into our camp and taken all of my fishing gear. Oh, she was pissed. Well, that was way better than me trying to explain what I'd actually seen and what transpired down at the river. Damn it, I was feeling very lucky to still be breathing. So I had 1 more cup of coffee and then told my wife that I wasn't feeling quite up to par and that I was just ready to go home. You know, Steve, from the first time I watched you reading and or fishing down by that beautiful river, all my subconscious hell came rushing back and had me praying that you'd be okay. You know, I can't help but believe that this creature had been watching me catch fish and wanted my fish. To this day, I still can't believe how that son of a bitch snuck up behind me. Since that day, I've given away most of my fishing gear. Only within the last couple of years have I had interest in finding out more about what took my love of the outdoors. Steve, like I've said, I've been watching your videos for about a year now, and every time I've seen you talking and fishing a river, well, it just brings back thoughts of my ordeal, but it seems to be getting a little better every day, bro. Steve, you're damn good, man, and I pray that your 6 will always be clear, bro. You know, God's got your back. P.S. This info will just be for you. Got you, man. Appreciate it. I got you. I got the number. I got it all, and I won't lose it, and I'll keep it, all right? And I'm super stoked and glad that you came here and shared that and quit harboring it. And just so you know, those rivers where you guys watch me fish, I'm right smack dab bullseye dead center of a pile of experiences shared by many different First Nations people around there, and who knows who else. We were talking about that on the way home yesterday. I was saying to Sarah, I said, I wonder just how many people we know out in that coastal community that have seen and know and don't want to talk about it, don't even want to acknowledge. And I have a feeling it's a lot more than I previously suspected. But whatever, it's okay. Nobody has to talk about it. As long as you can come and listen to it anyway, in a place like this or more, at least we can listen and see how many people, how common it is, so you don't question your own sanity, right? Anyways, get back to you, man. Obviously, I'm saddened that you have lost your love for the outdoors. That sucks ass. It's not fair. And I'm just hoping that how I share my experiences when I'm out and where I go is absolutely similar to where many of you people go and don't want to go anymore. And I want to show you that on average it's safe. On average. Obviously it's a little nerve-wracking when you're a member of the Club of No Return, but hopefully I can just give you guys some courage to get back out there and start living your life the way you're intended to again, right? And to try to, I don't know how I can convince people to not be scared of anything. I wish there was a course I could take to possibly deliver that and get people to jump on board the no scared train and stay on it. But I guess what I'm doing here may help a handful or a bunch. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, there we go. Thanks again, man. Appreciate your time, all right? Please get back out there. Follow people's advice on here on how to do it. And just go back out there, all right? And live that life and love the shit out of it. Holy cow, man. My tummy's growling. All right, let's get into this one. This is titled, Wichita Encounter. Greetings, Steve. Hope all's well with you and yours. When you see this email, you may read my name. I wanted to relate a mundane but slightly unusual experience I had as a young teenager in the summer of 73 or 74. I grew up in and near Wichita, Kansas. Then and now the state's largest city. Excuse me. At the time of the encounter, my family lived in a quasi-rural area, separated only a few miles from the city by some open farm country. What seems odd about this scenario is that this region is flat, the way people imagine all Kansas looks. Not so. Also, there's nothing resembling a forest in the region, only hedgerows of Osage orange trees planted as windbreaks around the Dust Bowl years. There just seems no way for any entity to avoid detection given that environment. I had read Ivan Sanderson's book about abominable snowmen from around the world a short time before this, so happened to have some knowledge around the subject. One night during this summer, I woke to a stench of human body odor, the power of which was unlike anything I've ever experienced, dwarfing any football locker room imaginable. This is followed by a series of grunts that sounded like they were just outside the window. From my reading of Sanderson's book, I had a sense of what I was experiencing in real time. Unfortunately, I didn't have the courage to look out the window. As previously stated, it's a biased tale aside from the wide open nature of an area so close in proximity to an urban setting. God bless you and Sarah and all the critters. Keep up the good fight. Dan Sullivan, as an addendum to the story, our house was one of many in the development, the backside being the western edge of an extensive suburban neighborhood. Okay, man, thanks for that. Wichita, there you go. And as far as the cover goes, or needing cover, it's not even applicable to these beings. It's just not. As one of my past contacts shared, there was a nuclear facility in the absolute middle of nowhere in prairies, I believe. No cover. And these things are showing up, looking up in security cameras at the staff inside the security compound. No timber cover. There you go. And that came from somebody of what mainstream people consider high importance. All right? Whereas I believe that everybody's just as important as each other. Well, that's just me. I hope I'm not too rushed, you guys, but I am really running out of time. It's going to be something else if I could even get this out to you before I leave. So, this is a bit of a long one, but I'm going to go for it, and then I'm going to get my ass out of here. Can't wait to be done with busy shit. Losing my patience being busy and tired, but I'll get over it. Hi, Steve. Thanks for all you do. You give an incalculable amount of courage for so many to speak up about what they have experienced and an outlet to freely do so without fear. I stumbled on your videos and shares a month or so ago, and I've been hooked ever since. I believe it is because the majority of the stories are so similar to my story. It was 4 years ago in 2018 when I had my encounter with whatever it was, or they were. I was hiking one of my favorite stretches of the AT, a day or so after Christmas, enjoying the quiet of the North Georgia mountains. The weather was a perfect low to mid-60s and warm in the sunshine. I passed one other person on the trail all day so far. That's my kind of day. It was a lone Forest Service worker doing some trail maintenance. She was an older woman and seemed a bit off to me, like she was scared or had something she wanted to say but didn't say. I moved fast, light and quiet, so I thought I may have surprised her as I came up the trail, attributed her appearance to that, and let it go. A couple of miles later, making my way up Trey Mountain, was when I first heard the screams. It was a loud howling scream or cry. I really thought nothing of the sounds, and even though I saw no vehicles at the base of the mountain in the gravel area by an old Forest Service road where folks will park to make a short hike to the top for a view. A lot of kids will go up and yell or scream to see if they can get an echo. Being only a couple hours drive from Atlanta, there are always some city people out there out for their first mountain experience. They do stupid stuff. I expected to find just that at the top. A few minutes later, I made the top of the mountain where I found an older Asian couple. They were absolutely stoic and did not even acknowledge me as I passed by, smiling, waving and saying, "Great day for a hike." I found that strange and thought they must have been praying or mourning a lost loved one or something like that. I'd attributed the screams to them as they appeared okay but weird nonetheless. Maybe they were stoned, I thought to myself. On the way down the other side of the mountain towards the shelter, I noticed the woods were extremely quiet. It was a day or two after Christmas, so most of the small critters that make noise were not out, or at least that's how I made myself feel better about the silence in hindsight. I also noticed I could hear and feel a rhythmic thumping. I really did not think much about that either. It was background noise to me. Living in a noisy suburb of Atlanta, you get used to noise and tune it out. I kept on moving fast and quiet towards the shelter. The noise began to get louder as I did, and I thought, man, I was moving fast up that mountain. I can feel and hear my own heart in my head. I made it to the shelter where I had planned to eat some lunch. The whole time I sat there eating and having a cup of coffee, I could hear the thumping. I noticed I could also feel it in the ground. It was a quick thump, followed by several very rapid, equally audible and hard thumps, as though something very heavy was dropped and bounced a few times. The woods were eerily quiet otherwise. I'm not much of a believer, or never consider myself as such. I've always believed there is some rational explanation for any strange noise or sound. So, in my mind, this thumping must have been machinery somewhere nearby, or something to that effect. There's a really reliable spring on the back side of the shelter where the old shelter once was, and it is a very popular spot for hikers to refill their water. Even in the dry months, this spring is flowing clear. I was pumping my water when it hit me, that feeling I was being watched. I'm not easily spooked, and I've spent many days, nights, and weeks alone in the woods. It is truly my happy place. I also don't spook easily, as I'm always packing a pistol and have many years of weapons and tactics training from a former life. There's not much in this world I'm afraid of. I paused my water pumping and for a moment and retrieved my 40 cal pistol from my pack along with an extra mag, just in case my gut was right. It's about this time I realized this rhythmic thumping I'd been hearing was much closer and louder than before. I could feel it in the ground. I could see it in the water I was pumping from. I could also hear the top of one tree in particular as though it was being struck really hard at the base, and the tree top with the dry leaves still hanging, reverberating the vibrations. The base of the tree is just below sight, about 60 yards off a ridge from my location. I realized that the noise was not machinery and could not possibly be, as there is nothing around this area. No roads, no buildings, no civilization of any type for many miles. I realized this noise was not background noise at all. I don't know of anything in nature that can create that kind of noise with that intensity. Anything in the wild that could create this noise and vibration would not be stopped easily with a 180 grain 40 cal hollow point either. That was the moment the other feelings and emotions hit me. The mixture of sadness, fear, anger, loneliness, hate, general disgust, and many other emotions was staggering. It was a feeling I've never felt before. A rush of emotions and feelings that still shakes me to the core as I write today. I never spoke of that aspect of the encounter and have only told a couple of close friends about the encounter at all for fear of ridicule. And that fear was not unwarranted, as there have been many jokes, but I let it roll off as always. After all, people who get spooked in the woods are either pansies or crazy Bigfoot storytellers, right? So I kept all this to myself for the most part until now. I finished up my water refill and packed up my kit, but kept my pistol handy just in case whatever this was decided to become an imminent threat. I made my way up the mountain back to the shelter and kept on moving as I could still hear and feel the thumping. The thumping followed me just below the ridge line as I made my way to the top of Tray. There's a nice little campsite near the top of Tray that has a lovely view this time of year. I'd planned to stop and camp there overnight, but thought better of it as the thumping was still going just below me on the ridge line. It was moving from tree to tree as I moved down the trail. Whatever it was, or they were, did not want me there, and I could feel that in my every being. I headed down the mountain and after a couple of miles realized the thumping had subsided, and I noticed the woods seemed alive once again, still rattled. I ended up hiking all the way out that night and came out of the woods after dark. There was no way. I was sleeping anyway, so I might as well keep on moving. I made it back to my Jeep and headed for the house. It took some time before I ever told anyone about this experience at all. I kept questioning my own training and even my sanity at times. I kept replaying it over in my head for years. Still today, this burning desire to explain away what it was I heard, saw, and felt that day. I've been back to the mountain many times since looking for any explanation, but to no avail. I believe it is a commonality that all of us who have had an encounter have, that need for an explanation or answers. Another commonality those of us seem to have is many unexpected life changes after the experience. It seems many of us have several big unexplainable changes happen in the months/years after the experience, some for the better, some for the worse. I've had many of these life-changing experiences happen as well. Perhaps it is coincidence, but I also believe there to be some other forces at play. I think this is why others refer to us as believers. Feel free to share my story, but for now, I'd rather remain anonymous at this time. Okay, man, I got you, no problem. As long as you share, we're all good. Okay, so previous training, it's either law enforcement or military or some kind of contractor possibly, right? But you know as well as I do, the element of surprise in a true predator in your life being threatened. You wouldn't have heard any thumping if you were truly at risk of being dead that day, right? I'm sure you know that. No predator or active killer hunter of human beings warns humans. They just don't. You're not going to do it. You're not going to warn a human being that you're coming for or looking to kill it, especially in the woods, right? You're just going to go do it stealthily and probably very easily. I'm glad you shared it, man. It sucks to be harboring all that shit. And I think we still have people here that share here. There's still a small handful of people out there that still withhold some of the details of their experience because it's just a little too much for them to process, and it's at the same time too much for them to feel the need to share with confidence, especially the strangers on the frickin' internet, right? But there we go. There we sit. There we are. I gotta get going. I can't relax, obviously, because I just got too much to do. I think I've only got 3 hours left. That's it. I want to get this done. I got to repack and get fuel, gear, and do all sorts of shit. And drive a couple hours on logging roads to get back out and get back at it and get up at 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. So there. What was I going to add on to that? I was going to give I'm sure nobody's listening to me from that country, but I am going to give a shout out to Sri Lanka and congratulate them on what they have done recently, which was thousands of people had enough of the bullshit and the irresponsible pieces of crap that were leading them, and they ousted them. Bravo. Well done, and what a great example for the rest of the world. That's what I'm going to leave on, and to never, ever comply. Later.